welcome to Libra season. Thanks for tuning in to the Embodied Astrology podcast. My name is Renee, and my readings are channeled messages based on the astrology for your sign in the season ahead. And my goal is to support you in embodying and integrating the most helpful and healing energies at this time. I'm excited to get into your Libra season reading in just a minute, but before I do, I want to ask you to stick around at the end for some information and announcements about what's upcoming at Embodied Astrology and some of the ways you can use the current influences for best benefit, especially when engaging with Libran kinds of things, like relating with yourself and others, and staying connected to your internal sense of center and balance when there might be a lot pulling or pushing at you from different sides. Okay, so stick with me at the end of this reading for those announcements. And then one more thing I want to tell you, which is that I've been taking some time off to reshape and revision some important parts of my life, which is definitely something that this time is asking a lot of us to do. These horoscopes were recorded way back in May in Gemini season, so please let me know how they land for you and what's resonating now in the comments. I do read my comments, and I love and appreciate hearing from you so much. As you tune in with this reading, keep in mind that astrology is an ancient, vast, and multidimensional technology. But sun sign horoscopes are general, and every astrologer has their own lens for interpretation. Not everything I offer will resonate for everyone, so take what works, leave the rest. Always listen to your own intuition and make the meanings that are most meaningful for you. I also want to remind you that horoscope astrology is most accurate for your rising sign. Pro tip though, check your birth chart and see if you have a late degree rising sign. There are 30 degrees to every sign, and if your rising degree is later than 25, I'd recommend also listening to the sign that follows yours. If you have a different rising and sun sign, listen for your sun sign for more information on your general energy and your rising sign for accuracy with timing, prediction, and thematic content. You can also listen to your moon and Venus placements for insight into your relationships, particularly important this season. If you enjoy my readings, make sure to check out your 2025 Year Ahead Expanded Horoscope. That's over an hour of in-depth exploration of this year's most important astrology for your sign, and those readings are discounted now, but still have so much information that is very relevant to this year and this season ahead. Okay, thank you so much for sticking with me for these announcements, and I am wishing you all the best in Libra season and beyond. So let's get into your reading. Hello Aries, welcome to Libra season. You probably know that Libra is your opposite sign, and that means that it's an important season for you to pay attention to because in astrology, the polarities or the oppositions between signs actually tell us more about each sign. So you are Aries identified, your sun, moon, rising, maybe other placements are in Aries, but an important part of Aries is actually Libra. So metaphorically, Aries is representative of the one, the individual, the individuated, differentiated beingness that everybody gets to be in this skin suit, right? The flesh suit of your body and this lifetime. Libra is representative of the two, of the relationships, of the other. And there is no one without the other. So they are absolutely reliant upon each other and cannot exist without each other. And so when we engage with Libra's energy, we are also engaging with Aries energy. And on a very big existential collective level, this is a period of time when otherness and othering and individuating and peopling, right? Like 8-9 billion people on a planet right now. Everybody's different, and all of us are here trying to relate to each other. Relationships are in big focus right now, and Libra as a sign and as an energy has a lot of associations with the bonds and contracts of relationships. I'm going to say especially the contracts or the agreements and the balance that we have in relationships. And so the word justice is a really important word for Libra, as are the words beauty and love. And so beautiful relationships and the experience of love cannot exist without justice and accountability and reciprocity and balancing. And you know this because you're a human being on Earth. Human beings are different, and we get into conflict and we hurt each other all of the time. We are constantly stepping on each other's toes. We're always saying things that somebody else wishes that we wouldn't say. You know, everybody's ignorant and biased and has a total lack of experience when it comes to somebody else's experience and wheelhouse and like what they think is obvious. And so conflict is to be expected. And the feeling of otherness is actually a very important feeling of being alive as an individual person, because the other person is also you, right? And so engaging in the space of relationship is essential for all of us, and everybody has Aries and Libra energies in their charts. And you, as an Aries identified person, you are really here for the work of relationships. Isn't that funny? Because I don't know if I'm probably not the first astrologer to say this to you, but I know that when I come across pop astrology, a lot of the time, I'm like, this is a meme, this is a cliche, and it's not actually accurate. Aries gets pigeonholed into this way of being that, like, you know, pop astrology is going to be like Aries doesn't give a shit about other people, but that is so wrong. That is so inaccurate. Aries is so concerned about other people in really deep ways, because you know that you need people. Like, you need people to fight with. You need people to make you feel good and safe and beautiful. You need people to feel attracted to. You need people to feel inspired by. You need people to applaud when you accomplish something. You need people to help you rest when it's your time to rest. I think that out of all the signs in the zodiac, the fire signs are actually some of the most relational signs, because the fire signs are the signs that also need to individuate the most. And so this kind of push-pull, tussle with the other, awareness of the need for doing your own thing is also awareness of relationship. That might seem convoluted, but it makes sense to me. So anyway, we move into Libra season, and there is then going to be some emphasis on relationships and other people and the kinds of contracts and agreements that you have with other people. That's what this season wants you to pay attention to in a very big and general way. Now, Libra season begins right after eclipse season. We had 2 eclipses in Virgo season, the last of which was a new moon solar eclipse the day before the equinox. And so as Libra season begins, this eclipse energy is very loud and resonant and still moving in the charts, and we are moving towards a full moon in Aries. So I'm going to say that for Aries placements, this eclipse energy continues to be very strong all the way until or through the first week of October, as we move towards this full moon eclipse. Excuse me, this full moon, not an eclipse, but this full moon, first full moon after the eclipses, that's in your sign. Okay. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about this particular period of time before I say more about it is that your ruling planet Mars is moving into Scorpio the same day that Libra season begins. And Mars has 2 homes, and one is in Aries and one is in Scorpio. So Mars is very strong as it moves into Scorpio, and it is also bringing a particular kind of intensity and focus to you, Aries, because Scorpio holds the 8th place for you, and the 8th place is all about transformation. And particularly because this season is wanting to highlight your relationships, I'm going to say that this is a season that is pulling a lot of focus on the transformation of relationships and the ways that you need to differentiate inside of your relationships. You might be in relationship with people who need to differentiate from you. So there may be circumstances where you are working with need for a little bit more distance, separation, or differentiation. And I will say that, of course, that can mean distance and endings, but it can also increase attraction and togetherness. And Aries knows this more than any other sign in the zodiac, right? Like, if you have a little bit of distance, well, that's some room to move closer, right? Like, if you're like, Aries energy is attracted to people who are doing their own thing, right? Like if somebody's all up in your business and they want to like glom all onto you and they don't want you to be your own person and they're like, me all the time, let's merge all the time. You might like it for a minute because it's like passionate, but after a minute, Aries is over it and you want to be on to the next thing. And so there's something going on in this season. I think that a lot of you are trying to figure out your right distance. And this could definitely be with all kinds of relationships, because there's things that are going on for you right now that have to do with family, that have to do with friends, that have to do with work relationships and colleagues, as well as significant partners and love relationships and things like that. So I'm going to say that in all of your relationships right now, you are looking for the right proximity. And you're also looking for the right agreements, and some rebalancing is already happening as we move into Libra season. And this rebalancing is happening for you individually, and probably for the people that you're dealing with in themselves individually. And then as you come together, the dynamics that you're working in, again, family, friends, intimate relationships, domestic relationships, collaborative relationships, business relationships, they're all on the table to be transformed, readjusted, etc. And for you right now, Aries, your concentration and focus needs to be on yourself. And it needs to be on, I'm going to say, like, what you're really trying to do with your life and your like biggest dreams for your own life. And there are things that need to get worked out in your relational spaces that do require you to negotiate, to compromise potentially, to be empathic and aware of what other people are doing, and definitely to be in support of other people's greatest good, but not at the cost of your own energy. And that could mean a whole lot of things. So that could mean your basic energy, like do you feel energized? If you're feeling very enmeshed, that's gonna like sap your energy a little bit. It could also have to do with your sense of power and empowerment. That needs to be a focus for you right now. And then within that, there are these sensations of like sovereignty and agency, and do you get to make choices for yourself and for your own needs and things like that. All kinds of relationships will put all kinds of limitations on what you can do, and absolutely unencumbered autonomy where you don't need to worry about anybody else is a fiction, doesn't exist. But there are ways that your connections right now can get clarified, transformed, renegotiated, rebalanced. And as much as possible, you want to be supporting other people to make the choices that they need to make for their own agency, sovereignty, is that the word? Yeah, sovereignty. And, the growth of their own spirits. And then you need to be making choices for your own. And if there are connections where you and other people want to be merging your energies, and many of you are in those kinds of connections right now, then the ways that you merge your energy will be the best. They'll be the most fruitful, joyful, productive, and effective when everybody who's involved in those connections also gets to be their own person. And that means they get to have their own wants and needs. They get to take their own space when they need their space. Sometimes there's going to be deviations of interest. Sometimes there's going to be conflict. There needs to be negotiation around how everybody gets to be themselves, including you. And this feels like a big theme for the entire season, and definitely for the first 2 weeks or so leading up and through this full moon on October 6th that's in Aries. There's some probably fairly important considerations that some of you are working with right now when it involves the future. And I feel that a lot of you are really needing to attend to your own psychology, particularly, again, enmeshments, entanglements, codependencies, insecurities, and the ways that your energy can get hung up with other people in ways that then distort how you see your own potential or your own future, I think need to get worked right now. And this is tricky because like this happens all the time with people when they fall in love, right? And so like it's in feelings of love and connection and attachment, as well as enmeshment and codependency and like things that might resonate more negatively or have a different kind of charge to them, where we can also experience distortions of how we are and like what we want to do with our own lives. So for example, this might not be your situation, but it could be, or make the meaning that's meaningful for you. So for example, let's say two people fall in love and both of those people are adults, and they have their own lives that have already happened, a whole lot of life that has already happened, goals, experiences, desires, etc. And then they find each other and they meet and they fall in love, and then they want to start a life together. And what happens a lot of times for a lot of people is that new relationship causes them to shift course. And so maybe they were on track to do something, but then they met this person and they fell in love, and then they just kind of let go of that dream or vision, or they put it on the back burner. Make the meaning that's meaningful for you. I feel that some of you need to remember who you are and who you were before certain situations brought in other ideas about who you are and who you could be. And it's not an either or binary right now. You don't need to like toss one out so you can have the other. But I do feel that there needs to be synthesis and transformation and psychological growth that is happening for you at the moment that requires you to remember who the fuck you are, Aries, because you have big visions and desires and needs in your life that are loud and getting louder for you for the next couple of months. And these visions and desires feel soul level. It feels to me like your actual spirit, your actual soul needs to experience certain things in this lifetime, in this timeline, while you're on this planet. And the people that you're in relationship with don't need to be impediments to you. They can be allies and friends and accomplices. But it may be that dynamics in your relationships have to change. And for some of you, certain things need to be revealed and spoken out loud. And for some of you, certain things need to get unearthed and allowed to emerge and be processed. And for some of you, you need to really look within and be honest with yourself, because relationships need to transform right now so that you can move in the direction of your growth. And this can be reversed as well for the people who you're dealing with, because I think that the people that you're dealing with are also in this situation. Like they need the situation with you to transform so that they can move in the direction of their growth. And everybody needs to not be worried about what that means for the connection. And this happens so much with attachments, where people don't move in the direction of their longing and their desire and their growth because they're attached and they don't want to disrupt the stability. They don't want to leave home or, make anybody feel insecure, or they don't want to feel insecure, or something like that. Aries, that is not the vibe for you right now at all. This is about moving courageously in the direction of growth, and also working tenderly and with subtlety and a fair amount of creativity in the complexities of your connections, because it is not a binary. You do not have to just end things with people in order to go off and experience your life. And there are way too many people out there giving advice, saying things like, just be done with that person, or move on, or like break up. And I feel that many of you actually want to invest more deeply in your connections, but in order to make those deeper investments, you and or other people need more freedom or agency or space for creativity in order to keep going. And relationships have to change. They have to be able to evolve and adapt and transform. And that is what is happening in your life in a very big way right now. And there's also a feeling that I have of your actual spirit, your soul is calling you to remember something. And as we move out of Libra season and into Scorpio season, it feels pretty intense. Mercury and Mars are coming together for a conjunction in Scorpio on October 19th. The Libra new moon is on October 21st. That is the day that Mercury begins its next retrograde process. So it enters its shadow with the new moon. And Mercury will be stationing retrograde in November in your fellow fire sign, Sagittarius. It's going to go back into Scorpio. And I'm going to say through the end of the year, I think a lot of you are in some kind of process where you're trying to figure out how to move forward into a new adventure. And this new adventure could be with other people. You don't necessarily need to be traveling alone right now, but the reason that you're adventuring and that you're traveling, Aries, needs to be your own reason. Even if it's a reason that you share with somebody else, you have to feel aligned in your heart, in your spirit with what it is that you're opening to. You have to feel that it's your own choice and that you are not being like brought along on someone else's thing, or you're not trying to coerce anybody else, and you're definitely not feeling like you're not doing something that you want to be doing because you're scared of what that means in a connection that you are worried about changing. That is a sure way to make yourself and others suffer right now. So do the hard thing in Libra season. This is a season that wants you to push up against that sense of relationship, other people, otherness, right? The balance, the polarity between you and others. This is a season that is highlighting the tension in those dynamics and the growth possibilities and opportunities. This is a season that needs you to get into the stuff of it. Your feelings might be big. Your psychology might feel ancient and karmic and twisted. You might feel stuck. Other people might be going through all kinds of stuff. Breathe deep. Keep focusing on what your soul is trying to get you to remember, what you need to stay in contact with. Believe in your own biggest dreams and trust timing. Trust that there are a lot of things that are happening that you cannot see. They are beyond the scope of your individual control. And they really require you to yield to larger forces and let go of trying to make certain things happen and allow what's trying to happen to move through you in creative ways. Okay? Okay. So with that, Aries, you know that I love to bring in the embodiment practices with astrology. I feel that embodiment practice is so integrating, and astrological information comes and goes. Whatever astrologer is saying, whatever it is that they're saying, that's one person's take. So let's tune in. Let's tune into the balance between Aries and Libra as a way to integrate this reading into the mind and body, and also to give you something that I think will be supportive for you in your dynamics with yourself and with other people. So in medical astrology, every sign has a different place in the body where it lives or where it governs or rules. And your place, Aries, is the face and the head, in particular, the upper half of the head. So from the upper jaw and cheekbones and nose, including the eyes, the plate of the forehead and the frontal lobes, and the brain. And it's in this place that, at least for me, I resonate most strongly with my I feeling. So when I use the first person pronoun and I say my own name, there's a kind of concentration of energy that comes in my face and in my brain and kind of central axis. And this is the Aries charge that lives in all of us. And it is the charge of selfness. It's the differentiated, individuated beingness where we get to be our own fucking people in these lives. Okay? Okay, Aries, feel yourself for a minute. Like, breathe up into your head, say your own name, feel your own goals. Like, imagine you in your own energy. You are here. Life is short. Let's make the most of it. And then we're going to tune in with your opposite sign, Libra. And Libra is said to live in or govern the kidneys. So where are your kidneys? You can feel for them by bringing your hands behind you. Try to palpate your lower ribs, or you might feel for the area of your back that is a little above the height of your navel. And the left and the right sides of your spine, you have two kidney-shaped organs, or you may have donated one or lost one at this point, but you at least have one. And just atop your kidneys rest your adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands do more than secrete adrenaline. There are several hormones that get produced in the adrenal glands that are super important when it comes to your body's capacities to metabolize and rest and digest. And what I want to invite you to do right now is start to bring your attention and your awareness into your back body, and especially into your lower back, and see if you can expand and spread your breath out in this place. And in order to do this, you might even let your head drop and your back round a little bit so your back can get even bigger and your breath can really flow into the lower lobes of your lungs. Okay. And then we'll practice sensing both places at the same time. And I'm going to keep one hand at my low back and then take the other hand to my forehead just so I can have some support from touch. And I'm going to try and breathe into both places and sense both places, my low back and my head, and especially the front of my head. Okay, and then once you feel that you can maintain your awareness in both of these places, you can rest your arms and see if you can continue to let your attention reside in the front of your head and also in your low back, and feel the balance between the front body and the back body. And then we'll just do a little bit of exploration through imagination, contrast and comparison. And let's invite the memory of feeling really courageous and differentiated and strong and proud. And so I want to invite you to think about a time when you just felt really good in your own energy, very clear, like you were making your own decisions, like you were in, a good space with yourself, and, could feel like you could do what you wanted, felt strong, felt clear about who you are. And notice how that feels in your body and how it feels in your back and in your head. Okay, and then let's bring in a counter kind of experience, and I want to invite you to imagine a time when you just felt really gripped in an entangled kind of relationship situation. And it could be anything. It could be an argument. It could be something that feels more like emotional or physical or whatever. But a time when maybe your own energy didn't feel as clear. And as that memory surfaces, notice how you feel in your inner body, and notice what happens in your face and in your head and in your back body. Okay, and then take a deep breath and let that go. And let's call in one more imagination. And this is an imagination for how you want to feel. And there might be a certain relationship or circumstance or project in your life that you are really wanting to feel your own power, your own agency, your own liberation in right now. And whatever emerges first in your imagination is a great place to focus on. And so we are calling in how we want to feel. And whatever that means, that might have a sense of accomplishment or some kind of change. Okay, and just notice how you feel in your head and in your back. Okay, and then Aries, let that go. Squirm, wiggle, shake it out, stretch it out. Notice what you notice. If you want to let me know in the comments, I'm super curious. I will say that oftentimes when our energy gets imbalanced, and it could be imbalanced because we're feeling urgent and focused and like attached to something, or it could also be imbalanced because we're feeling defeated or depleted or insecure. There's often constriction that can come up in the kidney area, in the Libra area. And when I feel that, that's a cue for me of the need to be present with my own energy and care for my own energy so that I can be in balance with others. I can also feel a lot of tension emerging in my face and in my head. And what happens to so many people in moments of conflict and mistrust or any kind of feeling of like the relationship isn't clear between us is like something happens in the eyes and in the space between the eyes, and people's gaze can get really hard or tight or tense, or it can be very hard to maintain eye contact, and like, people get very introverted and withdrawn in this part of their body and face. And there's, of course, so many reasons why that can happen. But I want to bring your attention into this balance right now, because this season is a season that is asking you to do internal transformation work. And one of the most immediate and effective ways that you can do internal transformation work is through somatic presence and awareness. This is body-centered, subtle, energetic presence and awareness. And over the course of Libra season, I challenge you to pay attention to relational dynamics, especially that have you feeling like you're working for something. And notice in those dynamics, what's happening. Do you feel balanced or imbalanced? What's happening in your back? What's happening in your head? And then you can use your own breath and attention and touch and supportive awareness to come into a state of more equanimity and balance in your own posture and poise. And it will have an effect on how you communicate, including the aspects of communication that aren't about you expressing. So it will have an effect on how you're able to listen and receive information from other people. It will have an effect on how you make meaning out of what you're picking up. And then it will also have an effect on how you express yourself. And I think that if you practice tuning in with your own energy, working for your own balance, calibration, etc., that the effect that will happen for you and with others will be a positive one and a helpful one. That is certainly my hope, Aries. So let me know how this resonates for you. I am always curious. I do read my comments, so leave me a comment and let me know. And I am just sending you so much love and so much courage for Libra season. I feel that a lot of you are making big, big, big moves in your life and in your relationships right now. And I want to say that there is a lot of expansion and liberation and opportunity, and that all the good stuff really requires you to love yourself, to listen to your own wants and needs, and to act in ways that really honor and respect who you know that you are, and honor and respect who other people are and are trying to become. And if you center that kind of ethic in your relationships, an ethics of mutual liberation and growth and opportunity, if the feeling is, I want what's best for you and I want what's best for me, how can, in the ways we're working together, we come together so that we both serve what's best for each of us? I really feel that whoever you're working with and whatever ways you're working will benefit so much. And disentangling from the ways that sometimes we forget our own best interests and we try to squish ourselves into shapes for other people, or we try to manipulate other people and squish them into shapes that we think are good for us. Letting go of those kinds of patterns is not easy. They are deeply, deeply ingrained through culture, society, family, trauma, etc. But letting go of those kinds of patterns and really cultivating your own internal sense of, I would say, primary commitment to your own soul and spirit is such a power move right now. And it is a big power move for you and the world around you. When you do that, it is also liberating for others around you. They might not love it in the moment if they're also feeling, very attached or unable to find their own sovereignty. You might need to be a possibility model and a role model for them. So doing this work around balance and noticing, if you're dealing with other people who maybe aren't giving you enough space, if you get reactive and want to push them away or something like that, this kind of practice can also help you really show up with your best capacities for compassion and clarity. And in my experience, the most important parts of communication are actually the energy that's underneath the words. And so if your energy is steady, stable, centered, and you know that you are listening to your own spirit and that you love other people and want them to be able to hear their own spirit, they're going to be able to hear that in your energy. And they might stop grasping on your words, and vice versa, because that can also be switched. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, Aries. I hope any or all of that feels helpful to you in Libra season and beyond. I'm wishing you all the best. Bye for now. Hello again. Thanks for sticking with me. Your attention is so valuable, and I really appreciate you giving some of it to me. If you enjoyed the reading I just gave you and you're interested in working more deeply with your chart and current astrology, I want to let you know about a few things we have coming up here at Embodied Astrology. First off, if you're interested in working more with me, I would love to see you sometime in somatic space. This is my weekly virtual class where we practice sensing astrology through gentle healing movement, meditation, and visualization, and working with the current astrological influences in embodied ways so that we can be internally prepared to make the most of our opportunities and work skillfully with the challenges. The live online classes are every Monday from 8 to 9:30 a.m. Pacific, but you can always catch the recording anytime throughout the week if you can't attend live. You can drop into Somatic Space whenever you want to check it out, but if you sign up for one of our monthly memberships, you'll get access to the live weekly class along with a library archive of past class recordings and twice monthly chart reading study groups, which are great spaces for learning more about how to work with your natal chart through experiential embodied practice. Our study groups are facilitated by my colleague and Embodied Astrology's community coordinator, Alicia Mauji. Alicia is also facilitating a 12-week cohort beginning on September 23rd, just 2 days into the beginning of Libra season, called At the Heart of Conflict. This is the second group of 5 12-week gatherings, which are taking place during Jupiter's transit in Cancer between June 2025 and June 2026. At Embodied Astrology, one of our primary intentions is to harness astrology to work with the needs of our times. And Jupiter's influence in Cancer is particularly well-suited for exploring patterns of conflict with curiosity, care, and in community with others, which is what this series is dedicated to, and also what this Libra season's influences are definitely asking for. Then, starting on October 19th, Embodied Astrology has a very exciting opportunity, which we are so happy to extend to you, to work with Palestinian dancer and choreographer Saed Mansour in an all-levels exploratory movement practice called Dancing the Political. Saed's work is powerfully transformative, and as we leave Libra season and head into Scorpio's time, we'll be working with a Mercury retrograde and some big influences in the water element that really need us to look and feel deeply at the stories we're carrying that keep us locked in points of view where we cannot see beyond our own perspective. This practice and process is designed to bring you into the deepest heart of embodied interconnection, assisting you to claim your truth and experience while also expanding your felt sense awareness of what else is possible and present. I can't overstate how important it feels to me to be doing this kind of work at this time on Earth. So if you're a person who knows that change begins with you and you're committed to working for love, liberation, peace, and justice in the world, I hope you'll join us for this truly unique and special opportunity. If you're interested but unsure if you want to commit to the full series, join us for the intro session on October 19th when you can meet Saed and get a taste of the practice. If you know that this work is calling you, or if you feel compelled to join after the intro, we're hosting a 4-session series between November 17th and December 7th that will change your life in wonderful ways. For more information, check the link in the show notes or head to embodiedastrology.com where you can find Dancing the Political under the Events tab, along with information about everything else I just mentioned and a lot more. Lastly, if this work benefits you and you want to help me keep giving these monthly readings for free, please consider signing up for a recurring monthly donation. If every one of our listeners gave just $1 a month, we would cover 100% of our operating expenses and have funds freed up to offer you even more. Other great ways to support this work are to follow, subscribe, like, comment, sign up for our free newsletter, and send a horoscope to a friend. All right, thank you so much for sticking with me for these announcements. I am so happy to be part of your life and Libra season. I am wishing you all the best in this season and beyond.